In the heart of Australia lies a place of profound beauty and deep spiritual significance, Uluru. This massive sandstone monolith, often referred to as Ayers Rock, rises dramatically from the arid plains of the Northern Territory, a beacon in the vast expanse of the Australian outback. Its sheer size and striking red hue, shifting with the changing light, make it an awe-inspiring sight. But Uluru is far more than a geological marvel. It is a sacred place, steeped in ancient stories and cultural significance for the Anangu people, the traditional custodians of this land. Uluru has stood sentinel in this desert landscape for millennia, its origins stretching back millions of years. For the Anangu, its presence is timeless, a physical embodiment of their ancestral beings and a direct link to their creation stories. Every crevice, every curve, every feature of Uluru tells a story, a piece of their rich cultural heritage passed down through generations. Uluru is not just a place, it is an ancestor, a living being to be revered and protected. Its presence dominates the surrounding landscape, a silent guardian watching over the vast desert plains. Uluru is a place of deep silence and powerful energy, a place where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds feels thin. Even for those who are not familiar with its cultural significance, the sheer majesty of Uluru evokes a sense of awe and wonder. The Anangu people have lived in this region for tens of thousands of years, their culture intricately interwoven with the land and its features. Their connection to Uluru is profound and enduring, a relationship built on mutual respect and responsibility. To truly understand Uluru, one must understand its significance through the eyes of the Anangu, the keepers of its ancient stories. The Anangu people are the traditional owners of Uluru Kata Tjuta National Park, their connection to this land stretching back millennia. Their culture is deeply rooted in the land, their stories, beliefs, and traditions intricately woven into the very fabric of the landscape. For the Anangu, Uluru is not just a rock. It is a living, breathing ancestor, a sacred being central to their creation stories and spiritual beliefs. The Anangu believe that their ancestors continue to reside in the land, their presence felt in the wind, the rocks, the plants, and the animals. They see themselves as custodians of this sacred land, responsible for its care and protection for future generations. Their knowledge of the land is profound, passed down through generations of careful observation and storytelling. Their stories, known as Chukurpa, explain the creation of the world and the significance of the land and its features. These stories are not just myths and legends, they are a living history, a way of understanding the world and the interconnectedness of all things. The Anangu have a deep respect for the natural world and the delicate balance that sustains it. For centuries, the Anangu have lived in harmony with the harsh desert environment, their lives intricately connected to the cycles of nature. They have developed a deep understanding of the land and its resources, using their traditional knowledge to survive and thrive in this challenging environment. Their culture is one of resilience, adaptability, and deep spiritual connection to the land they call home. The arrival of Europeans in Australia brought about significant changes to the landscape and the lives of the Aboriginal people. Uluru, once a place of sacred solitude, became a destination for explorers and adventurers drawn by its mystique and grandeur. In the 1950s, tourism began to flourish in the area, and with it came a new challenge to the sanctity of Uluru climbing. Initially, climbing Uluru was encouraged as a tourist activity, with little regard for the cultural significance of the site or the wishes of the Anangu people. A chain was installed to aid climbers, scarring the rock face and further disrespecting its sacred nature. Tourists flocked to Uluru, eager to conquer its summit and capture the perfect photograph, often oblivious to the cultural and spiritual implications of their actions. The influx of tourists brought with it not only a disregard for the sacredness of the site, but also environmental damage. The fragile desert ecosystem was impacted by erosion caused by foot traffic, littering, and the development of infrastructure to accommodate the growing number of visitors. The Anangu people, witnessing the disrespect shown to their sacred site and the degradation of their land, began to voice their opposition to climbing Uluru. Their pleas were often ignored, their voices drowned out by the economic interests of the tourism industry and the desire of some to conquer the rock. The conflict between the Anangu's desire to protect their sacred site and the commercial interests of tourism became a point of contention, highlighting the clash between cultural values and economic priorities. From the outset, the Anangu people have expressed their deep-seated opposition to the climbing of Uluru. Their pleas to respect their sacred site have been consistent and heartfelt, rooted in their cultural beliefs and their responsibility to care for the land. For the Anangu, asking people not to climb Uluru is not about restricting access or imposing their beliefs on others. It is about protecting a place that holds profound spiritual significance and ensuring its preservation for future generations. The Anangu have repeatedly explained that Uluru is not a playground or a tourist attraction to be conquered. It is a sacred being, a living ancestor who deserves respect. They have shared their stories, explaining the significance of the site and the importance of protecting its cultural integrity. They have erected signs at the base of Uluru, politely asking visitors not to climb and explaining the reasons why. Despite their efforts, the message was often not heard or was simply ignored. Some visitors continued to climb, driven by a desire to reach the summit or a lack of understanding about the cultural significance of their actions. The Anangu, however, never wavered in their resolve to protect Uluru, continuing to advocate for its respect and preservation. Their voices, though often marginalized, gradually began to resonate with a wider audience. People started to listen and understand the perspective of the Anangu, recognizing the need to respect their wishes and protect this sacred site. The tide was slowly turning, paving the way for a future where Uluru would be appreciated for its cultural and spiritual significance, rather than seen as a tourist attraction to be climbed.